We don't get rewards as a dad. We just do what we have to do. And even thinking in that mindset, you start to think, yes, I'm doing everything I can. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. Why am I losing myself in this process? Why do I continue to lose pieces of myself, lose my health, lose my friendships, lose what is the true cost of being a dad and why most men can't pay the price? In today's conversation, I want to talk to you about the lost identity of a dad and why do men lose themselves in this process? Welcome to the Dad's Group Chat Podcast. You know who I am. They call me G. Thank you to all the YouTubers, the TikTokers, the listeners all across the world. Thank you for allowing me to grow. And thank you for being a part of the journey. I truly appreciate it. Now, in today's conversation, I want to touch on a few things, and I want to know if you have 15 minutes for it. You know, these conversations, I know I've had many great guests on the podcast, from musicians to comedians, entrepreneurs, motivational speakers, you name it, life coaches. I've had them all. And I truly appreciate each and every conversation. And I truly learned a lot from every conversation. We've laughed. We've cried on the podcast. I truly feel blessed to be in a position to talk to you guys. Today, though, I want to touch on a few things as far as fatherhood goes, especially the lost identity of a dad. The first thing I want to talk about today is how men lose themselves in the role of becoming a provider, a parent, someone who their kids look up to and admire. You know, a lot of us lose ourselves in that transaction. And, you know, I'm speaking from a place of knowledge because I know and I've been through it. I've lost myself. You know, I truly had to figure out how to get back to becoming me while being the best father I could to my children. And for some of us, that seems like an impossible task because a lot of us having dads in our lives truly inspired us to be better dads than what we had in the past. A lot of us did not have dads in our lives. And because we didn't have dads in our lives, we want to make sure our kids don't feel that burden. They don't feel that pain. And in any situation, regardless of what the situation was, for those of you who are being present dads in your kid's life, regardless of being with the spouse or not, I applaud you. That's exactly what you should be doing. You know, we don't get rewards as a dad. We just do what we have to do. And even thinking in that mindset, you start to think, yes, I'm doing everything I can. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. Why am I losing myself in this process? Why do I continue to lose pieces of myself, lose my health, lose my friendships, lose parts of my life that were concrete for me? But now everything is focused around the kids. Everything is focused around being the best spouse that you could be. You lose yourself in that transaction. I also want to talk about the signs of neglection, like the signs of you neglecting your health, the signs of you neglecting your own passions, because that's what happens. That's what tends to happen. You lose yourself thinking that because you're a parent, you're not supposed to be passionate about something. Because you're a parent, you're not supposed to have dreams anymore. That's what we usually go for. That's what we usually think about. This is not only dads, this is moms too. They go through the same process. Differently, of course. But for us men specifically, and for those of us who truly want to be the best parent that we want, that we can be for our kids, we lose a piece of ourselves. Let's talk about friendships, right? Because a lot of us may have had many friends, many solid friendships, some associates, right? But regardless of what that was, that's not what it is when you become a parent. That's not what it becomes. You tend to lose more friends when you become a parent, when you become a provider, A lot of us lose our health. You see the dad bods. That's a real thing. By the time you look up, and I'm speaking from experience, right? I'm speaking from my own experience. Like I became a dad in 2014. It was the best thing ever. I'm responsible for someone, a girl at that. I wanted a girl. God gave me two. It's been an amazing journey being a father to these two wonderful babies. However, I did lose myself. I ended up losing my health. What do I mean? Getting bigger, not exercising, not focused on my nutrition. Things start to just little by little step away from you. And you're not noticing it because you're enjoying the process of being a father. You're enjoying the process of being a provider, of being a stand-up guy, of being, the man in the house, as people say, right? And, making sure that everything is handled. Any burdens, give it to me because I can handle it. And I'm going to stay quiet about it. But that's another conversation that we're going to have later on. I'm telling you, I want to tap into the fathers out there. I want to check in with you guys. I want to make sure you're okay. Because for sure, for a long time, I wasn't okay. For a long time, I was lost. I haven't said this to my friends specifically, but I feel like I've lost a lot of them because of my focus on fatherhood, because of my focus on being a provider. It's not like, I'm a father and I thought about it in a way that, oh, I'm going to be a dad, but I'm always have time for my friends. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. By the time you look up, usually you lost your friends, and I'm not saying that I lost them per se. They're still there. And I'm sure if I reach out, they'll be there. But most of us feel this way. Most of us are not connecting with our friends anymore. And it may be for different reasons. A lot of us, took on a path of fatherhood, spouse, whatever it may be, and took on those responsibilities, and things have to change. People have to grow. But, if let's say your friends are not following in that journey of becoming fathers and, providers for their households and stuff like that, you tend to go on different paths. And that's just life, man. So I just wanted to connect with you guys, man. I know that we're not alone. We have each other. We need to tap into each other. We need to make sure we check in with each other. Create a space where we don't lose our identity. It is very easy to lose yourself in parenting. It is very easy to lose yourself when you become a spouse. You start focusing on other things that are not necessarily bad, not necessarily distracting, but they become your main priority. And it's not unfortunate. It's just life. I'm just trying to figure out the balance. So as a dad, I don't lose my identity again. How do we reclaim our individuality while becoming a provider? How do we ask for space when there's no space to be taken? Your kids have sucked the life out of you, and that's a fact. Your spouse may have you busy as, you know what I'm about to say. But kings, make sure you take care of yourself. Make sure you make sure you check in with your friends. Make sure you check in with those that love you. Make sure you don't lose your identity while becoming a dad, because that's a real thing. And each parent has a role, and I'm not saying that mothers do less. Of course, mothers do a lot too. But for fathers, we lose our identity and we stay quiet about it. And that's something that I dealt with for a very long time. I'm currently dealing with as well. It's not something that you shake out of easy, because we don't necessarily communicate our parental concerns, our identity concerns with other men. We don't tap into our community as much as we should. We definitely need to have some solid friends that understand what we're going through, that allow you to grow in your space, that could check in on you every once in a while, that you could check in on every once in a while as well. Don't lose yourself. Make sure you reclaim your individuality. Because parenting, if you allow it to, and while it's a great, fantastic ride, it'll have you lost. I'm just speaking facts. I'm a parent of two. One is 11. She's about to be 12. The others just turned 9. They're driving me crazy. As they should. They're kids. I remember driving my parents crazy. But I also remember my father picking up the bottle and drinking. At that time, I thought it was just for a good time. But in reality, was it? Or was it an escape from everything that was currently happening at all times, which was my sister and I were taking up a lot of the space in the house? When you start to think about it like that, you start to appreciate your parents more, but you also start to identify that you're losing yourself as well, because you start doing things to cope with everything you're going through. And lately I've been on a memory lane journey where all my uncles, now that I think about it, most of my uncles, they picked up the bottle, they started smoking. I get it. They were probably young, having fun as well. But they utilized that. Now that I look back, they utilized those moments as a coping mechanism for whatever they were going through. Because think about it. If we millennial parents don't connect as often as we should, man to man, what am I going through? What are you going through? What is your parenting style like? Can you give me some tips on these situations that I'm going through in life? If we don't do that, picture back in the day. Picture our parents, the ones that didn't believe in therapy at all. The ones that, they were just out here trying to survive. On survival mode, they found things to cope with the current situations that they were going through. Listen, all I'm going to leave you with is this. The loss of identity of a dad is truly real. I'm about to be 43 and I'm figuring that out right now. I want to say for the last 10 years plus, I've truly experienced losing myself, but I'm also experiencing at the moment regaining myself and my identity. We're going to be talking a lot as the weeks come, but I just wanted to take 15 minutes to discuss this with you. You guys have a safe night. Whatever you guys are doing, do it well as parents. Enjoy your kids, of course. I'm not saying not to give them everything they want. I'm not saying not to have them, I'm not saying to neglect your kids. I'm not saying to neglect your spouse. I'm not saying, just abandon them. No, you're supposed to be there for them. You're supposed to be the provider. What I am truly saying here is don't forget about you. It's the most important part. If you lose yourself, what's going to happen? Think about that. Don't ever forget about yourself. To all the dads out there that are in the midst, in the fight, doing what you're supposed to do, providing, being there for those kids, giving them a different upbringing than what you experienced, or giving them a better experience than you had in general. I applaud you. That's exactly what you're supposed to be doing. But what I am also saying to you guys is try not to lose yourself. And if this is the sign to start finding yourself again, go ahead and find yourself. I love you all. Peace. Till the next time. Deuces.